And welcome to Live Darts. We're here at the PDC Fishing Championship, the Eve. We're at the Welcome Barbecue, and we're joined by Chris Mason. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure, as always.
I say, an unbelievable experience this is for raising money for a great charity in Parkinson's, so we're all here for the right reasons.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to see so many different people from different backgrounds, different sportsmen, people from the media, and we get to spend the day on a beautiful, beautiful lake, Gold Valley. What a place! First time I've ever been here. I had a walk around this afternoon with yourselves, and just can't wait for tomorrow.
Definitely, only one place to start on the darting circuit, and that's the BDO statement that was released in the week. Good move, smart move, or I'm confused if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it was one of those. We were left with more sort of questions than answers. From what I can gather, it's now being it's open season. PDC players can now compete in BDO events as long as they're not streamed, because obviously all PDPA members have signed a clause within their contract that doesn't allow them to be broadcast on non-PDC events. So again, that's going to throw up a problem, especially for organisers that have streaming events. And also, I'm not sure it's right. If you're going to sort of pick and choose the odd BDO event to enter, and then you've got someone who's playing the circuit for a season and they miss out because they competed against a PDC player and they missed out by those couple of points in sort of the latter stages of an event that's not streamed or on TV, I think that's a bit cruel. I'm not quite sure. I don't get the point. I understand why they did it, because that then frees the women up to compete in the qualifiers for the PDC World Championships, and they're not going to be penalised, which is fantastic. Hopefully it just sort of bridges the gap, opens a few doors. Barry's been very, very vocal on social media and said, look, he's prepared to talk to the BDO. He'd love to step in and guide them and maybe sort of give them some advice. Matt Porter, who's the CEO of Matchroom, he's already said, he spoke to me about it, and he said, look, he ain't got a problem with it. He'd more than sort of give them some advice and put them in the right direction. Listen, darts needs a proving ground. We've already got it with the development tour, the challenge tour, etc. But there's no reason why both governing bodies can't operate side by side. So ultimately, it's good for the game. I just think the way it was put out there was a little bit confusing, even to us, and we work in the sport. We're part of it. Even though it took me a while to work out what was going on. But fair play. It's a positive move. We've got a new chairman in Des Jacklin, which is another great move. He seems to be a little bit more dynamic. Social media side sort of starting to pick up. So it's all good, yeah. No, listen, I cover the BDO events for BT and Channel 4, so I'm keen that they continue to be part of darts.
So is this the first step of darts coming all on one page again, potentially in the future?
Yeah, I hope so, because it's listen, I went through it in the early 90s with the initial split where I couldn't do an exhibition against a BDO player because they would get banned, and the players before me, the originals that did make that brave move, and it was a brave move because they put their livelihood on the line and they gambled big. We didn't really benefit from it, but the players are today, £12 million the tour next year. They're all making the bees and honey out of it, while we sit back and just applaud where the game is. Ultimately we love the sport, so it's great, and I do hope there is no reason why they can't work side by side and benefit each other. I think Barry was right. They got to just accept the fact that they are the amateur side of the game, but that works perfectly in other sports: boxing, football, snooker, all of them. And there's no reason why egos can't be sort of left at the door, walk in, have a chat, and see what they can do for each other. Because we do get players come from that BDO system. We've seen it before that do go on and become successful PDC professional players. So yeah, fingers crossed they sort of, like I said, leave egos aside. And it's more of a case that obviously the PDC can do more for them, but again, it's just leave the egos aside, get in, work together, and hopefully map out the future for both orgs.
Definitely, and I say, talking on the PDC, the Oceanic region of the World Series has just finished. We've had another 3 winners down under.
Six events.
Six events, 6 different winners. Unbelievable.
Fabulous.
One question I'm going to ask you though: has MVG lost that fear factor? Where 2 years ago, he was almost Taylor-esque in that aura, in that demeanour he had. Has that now gone?
I'm not quite so sure. I think Marvin Agler came out with a great quote about getting up, doing your road run on a cold, wet morning, getting out of silk sheets. So maybe, he's made a fortune of money, which is well documented, and maybe the edge has just gone off his game slightly. I'm not so sure. Maybe you know, he's got other priorities. He's a family man. Recently got married. Well, I say recently, but yeah. So maybe his priorities have changed slightly, and he's not quite got that venom. He doesn't seem. He's losing now, and it doesn't look that bothered. Where before, if he lost, he used to be devastated. I mean, I seen him at the match today. We were both there, and he was fuming when he lost that match. But yeah, he's a bit early to write him off. Pleased for Rob Cross. I know how much he sort of found it hard this season. It took him 6 months to win a Pro Tour, but eventually won a World Series event. Great for him, great for his confidence in this is the big part of the year now. We're entering a really important period, and it's great that MVG isn't dominating. You know, I think it would have been bad for our game to go from that Taylor era of domination straight into another one. And I just think more and more players now are capable of hitting that big average, and they're not choking on those occasions now. We've seen young players take him out. You know, we've seen more established players find a way to beat him, and I think that's great for the game. And the next 6 months is going to be absolutely epic. And although he's the right favourite in most of the events, I don't think he's going to be sort of 4-6 before an event kicks off anymore. He'll be more about even money, 5-4.
Just one little stat that I looked at. Is it a coincidence the only TV event he's won in the last 7 is the one that his family weren't there for? Is that a coincidence? Like, you don't take your family to other, like, if we're at work, you wouldn't take them to a factory.
Exactly. No, I think
coincidence or not?
No, I think it's a great point. I think it's a great point, and I think you're spot on. I don't think it allows you to become, you know, dart players like any other sportsman. You sort of, you know, over those closing few hours, you're 100% committed and focused. And maybe having his family around, although that is nice to spend some time. Like I say, he's got a young family. Maybe it's just taking his eye off the ball slightly, and maybe something that he will address. Listen, he's the ultimate professional, hence why he's, you know, MVG and the #1 in the world, and has won so many events. Like I said, I wouldn't write him off. Same people were doing it to Rob Cross, one-hit wonder, and you know, that's not going to happen. It's just he's a very new professional. It's taken him a long time to get used to the process.
Question on Facebook Live for you here. Who do you think will be the next player to win their first world title?
Michael Smith.
Good shout.
Yeah, that's the one. He's another one. The last 12 months, not necessarily improvement in his play, but the way he approaches it, the maturity. He's much more level-headed. Yeah, for me, he's like the most likely to win a world title next.
Another one for you here. Apart from practice, how do you get more consistency in your game?
Practice, practice, practice. And again, it's good practice. No good just stand there, just plobbing darts into the board. You know,
quality opposition.
Quality. Find someone once a week of a better standard than you. Try and every week close that gap, but never practice with someone you dominate, because that's a pointless exercise. Always try and find someone who's gonna take you deep in matches. And then that period away, if there's certain parts in that match, there's some great software out there nowadays that allows you to analyse your performance. Use that. If it's certain doubles that have let you down, certain combinations have let you down, work on those in that period in between your next practice session, and then try and implement it then.
Going to change sports here. We're going to go to the boxing world, as we're both fans. The heavyweights, only place to start. The Tyson Fury comeback, and then moving into the Wilder fight. 1, how do you rate his comeback? And 2, will the Wilder fight happen, or is it smoke and mirrors?
The Wilder fight definitely happens. I know that because obviously I know them. The first fight, it was just one of those, just literally to dip his toes back in the water. The second fight, I thought it was okay. He come under a lot of stick for it. They had a game plan. They didn't want to blow him out early, so they had no intention. I mean, this is the guy that got knocked out by Kevin Johnson not very long ago. So I think they were fully aware if they wanted to knock him out, they would have. And let's not forget, if you rewatch that fight, every time he had him backed up, he just walked away and walked him back into the middle of the ring, and he was trying different things. Ben Davison was 100% do not stop him. Even in the last round, he went no. Leave him on his feet, try new things, work on new things. I thought he did the 10 rounds easy. It wasn't blowing. I thought he looked okay, and let's be honest, Wilder's not exactly Muhammad Ali, is he? His balance is terrible, his feet are terrible. He has a puncher's chance, and people find that fascinating because nowadays the casual boxing fan seems to look at his stats rather than his knockout percentages and everything else, rather than look at his ability. He's got an awful resume, as do most heavyweights nowadays, because the competition's poor.
It's only Lewis Ortiz that of any real ilk that Wilder's beat.
Listen, he's older than me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And he give Wilder an absolute nightmare. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about Fury. He is up against a big puncher. But let's be honest, how many people land a shot on him? He's elusive, he moves well for a big guy. I'm fairly confident it'd be an awful fight. But Fury wins it on points.
So Fury wins in Vegas. Now, we all know Wembley Stadium is booked for April the 13th. Can Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren get the deal done for them to fight?
No, you'll be speaking to the man who'll be fighting Joshua tomorrow. Dillian Whyte, he's here tomorrow. I'm fairly confident, and why not? Listen, he's got his resume is probably better than Wilder's. He's only been beat by AJ, and he had his moments in that fight, albeit brief. But he had AJ wobbling. He stiffened his legs up, and he'll go into that fight very, very confident. And why not? He's another fighter that's improved massively. I wasn't a huge fan, but since that AJ fight, he's answered every question that's been put to him.
Got a hell of a set of balls on him as well.
Oh, he's brave as they come. He'll fight anyone. He's a proper. When they, you hear a lot of boxers go, I was a street kid and everything else. He was a genuine street kid, and he's hard. He's hard as nails, and he's not frightened to face anyone. And I'm looking forward to that. But I think after that, whoever wins out of Wilder and Fury will face the winner of AJ against Dillian Whyte, and then you've got. Gerald Miller, Baby Miller, what's he going to do? I don't particularly rate him highly. I think he's overrated, if anything. But Eddie has a great way of signing up fighters that takes the emphasis away from facing his own fighters, which is what he's done in recent months. And obviously this DAZN deal's huge.
Absolute monsters.
And what a deal the Americans are getting. I wish we were getting that deal. $9.99 a month, and they get all the Matchroom cards. And all the American cards. It's it's a hell of a deal.
Do we think we'll ever see Wilder Fury because of the promotional and the TV deal as well? We all know that Frank wants it on BT and Joshua's contracted to Sky. I see that as a huge stumbling block.
No, because Fury's deal with Frank was initially, I think it was a 3 or 4 fight deal. So he's had 2 fights. The 3rd fight will be Wilder. So he'll have 1 more under contract. And listen, money speaks. Whereas the big bucks will come from Matchroom, and he'll go where the big money is if he gets past Wilder. I mean, they're fighting for some big money in that fight in Vegas. But trust me, you imagine AJ versus Fury, the build-up, the pay-per-view buys it will do. It'll be huge. That'll sell Wembley out in a couple of days.
Obviously, I'm going to say boxing in loose terms here. We've got to touch on it. The YouTube sensation fight, KSI against Logan Paul. Obviously, YouTube going forward has got a huge part to play in sport, I think, streaming it on things like this, where youngsters, that's all they watch. So I think TV, as you and I know it, may be coming to an end.
Absolutely. And the way we watch sport now is coming to an end. We see it on all these subscriber channels. Box Nation struggling. Sky, the numbers on Sky are going down. People watch TV different nowadays. Even I just bought myself a big 4K TV, so I catch up everything on YouTube, and that's what people's going to do. If you miss it live, you play catch up, and it's a great facility. To be honest, it's almost part of what Joshua sort of created with Eddie. We're selling 90,000. We had it with Froch, I know, against Groves. Carl speaks about it often.
Did Froch fight at Wembley?
Yeah. But that kind of old mentality of it's a different demographic of fan now. We call them casuals because they don't really know a lot about boxing. Why would you pay to watch 2 YouTube, whatever they do? I don't even know what they do, and they can't fight. But that just shows you the interest is there. The demographic of sports fans have changed. We've seen it in darts. Look at that thing in Germany earlier this year, 22,000 people. It's
Unreal.
just the way sport has gone. It's just changing, and thank God we're part of it.
Last one, I say, Connor's back in action soon as well. Huge fight month, tough fight he's coming back to as well.
That's an amazing bit of matchmaking there. I'm surprised he's been out so long.
2 years out of the octagon, because it was a year ago today he fought Floyd in the ring.
Dipped his toes in the boxing ring, the square circle. That didn't really end very well for him, as predicted. But yeah, the tough fight shows his intentions. Listen, he's a man that's not fighting for money, so he could have took a much easier route to come back. Hasn't, and he's chose a toughie, and that's a pick 'em fight. That's a 50-50 fight for him, and one I wouldn't be shocked to see him lose. Not that I'm a massive MMA expert.
Going to dip back into Facebook here. We've got some really great questions for you before we wrap it up. Who's the next big prospect that you think will come through?
Oh, geez, that's a question.
Yeah.
I'd like an hour's notice on that one. There is just so many, that talent pool. Look how recent we've seen. Look at that young lad that won the Cambridgeshire Open.
13 years old.
13 years of age, winning a senior event, £1,000. I was having a joke on Twitter. I won a big youth tournament years ago, a long time ago, about 10 years ago maybe. And I won a £25 MFI voucher. What would I need an MFI voucher? I was a 12-year-old kid. But yeah, times are changing. I mean, there is, I like that Jared Cole, yeah, he's impressing me. I like Dean Reynolds. He does go up a little bit and down. He plays in the BDO system, but there literally is so many now. It's almost impossible to try and pluck one out. And I don't really watch enough of the youth darts. I sort of just try and follow it on social media. But yeah, there's so many.
Again, are you pleased the ladies are going to get a crack at the big time?
Absolutely, yeah. Why shouldn't they? There's no reason why not. I'm ultimately pleased that they're going to also be able to compete in their own World Championships. They deserve to have their own. But as we know, the PDC it's not the men's PDC. It's open to anybody. We've seen women playing, seen Lisa Ashton play on the Challenge Tour. So
Anastasia beating Vincent at the Grand Slam.
Exactly, yeah. We've seen it before. We know it's possible. Again, a player like Trina, you sort of feel sorry for because at her prime,
wrong era.
She would have scared most men, that's for sure. And obviously Dita, another one that's more than capable. She beat Aaron Turner in the UK. I'm sorry about that, Aaron. You'll love me for that. Yeah. Ultimately, I'm pleased. I love women's darts. I think the one spot that, you know, the Premier League and the PDC and the elite events prop up everything else. For me, in the BDO, the ladies' game, you think 70% of the things that is marketed are driven towards women, right? In the media and TV adverts and everything else. And women's sport now, so women's presenting, you know, you've got so many women now involved in sport and at the forefront on your BBC or ITV. Jackie, obviously, I work with. So I think they're missing a trick, and if they push the women's game forward, that could well prop up the men's part of the BDO.
Chris, absolute pleasure to speak to you. So we're taking off your time. We'll let you get back and go and enjoy the hospitality.
Thank
Amazing.
You very much,
Thanks very much.
Pleasure.